Alright everybody, so as the title of this video suggests, I want to talk about basically the idea of daily training your arms, every single day, just to see what happens. So to kind of give you a little bit of background, some of you may recognize this daily body weight activity spreadsheet from some of my previous videos where I talked about basically the body weight routine that I'm going to be following every week. And, basically what that meant was that I was trying to establish sort of a base level of activity that I wanted to get in every single day, whether or not I was working out, because then that gives me, it helps keep your body running smoothly. It just helps keep everything oiled, just helps keep everything moving. It really helps in terms of flexibility and in terms of, building strength and muscle mass a little bit, not so much, but it just helps you feel good. I felt a lot better in terms of flexibility, in terms of mobility. I'm not so achy. I don't have as much, recovery issues. So that's been a good success. Of course, a lot of that has changed since, obviously the viral outbreak and sort of not being able to go into the gym anymore. Obviously I'm focusing a lot more on body weight activity in general. So I'm doing other workouts aside from, just this stuff at home. But this is sort of the baseline, again, the baseline that I'm starting from. And so, initially when I started out, basically I started off, okay, I'm tracking, you can see here my steps. So basically just, how many steps I'm taking per day, weekly averages. Obviously this has actually gone down quite a bit since, I'm staying inside more. I do need to focus on getting more steps in, but, that's for a problem for future Adam to think about. Aside from that, we've got, things like adding in push-ups, adding in squats. More recently, I got a pull-up bar, so I added in pull-ups as well. Band pull-aparts, just a basic exercise for the back. And then, of course, curls and lat raises. And so, I've added a few exercises over time. Of course, you can see, for example, here that I didn't start doing lat raises and pull-ups until more recently. But basically this just gives me a really easy way to track things. It gives me a really simple, easy way to track things, and sort of see my progress really easily, visually over time. And I honestly, I kind of like, being able to color code things. It's easier than just having a daily log in a notebook, because, those red boxes there, it tells me, okay, you messed up today. And that really actually does motivate me to do better in the future. It does motivate me to get those streaks of green. So, it's, for me, it's very motivating. For some people, they prefer to just have sort of a no failure sort of situation where they just have a notebook and they're just writing down in the notebook and they're not worrying about, being mocked by the red colors in the sheet and so on. But so basically, I started doing that plan, and at the time, I thought, okay, well, because I'm moving arm workouts into, this structure, I don't really need to do arm workouts in the gym as much anymore. I'm going to get more total volume from my arms anyway, just doing these basic daily workouts with the dumbbells that I have at home. And of course, what that ended up doing or, causing was that, oh, surprise, now I'm training arms basically every day. And, that's a recommendation that you see with a lot of people, that basically they should train their arms all the time. That basically you want to train arms very, very frequently if you want to get results. And I kind of wanted to talk about just training for arms in general as a result of that, and, sort of talk about sort of my experiences over the last month, what it's meant in terms of growth and so on. So basically, you can see here, this is the section with curls, starting off very light, just, 10 pounds at a time. At first, what I set up this sheet with was sort of a standard volume calculation. You can see here, where it's basically weight times sets times reps. Obviously, I started to just get bored, or I started to, I didn't want to have to calculate where it's like maybe one set I do 40 reps and another I do 30 and another I do 20. And then, okay, maybe I can average those out and just say that I did 3 sets of 30, but then it gets more complicated if you're doing, other, combinations. So what I ended up migrating towards was basically just saying, okay, you did one set of, 160, when that's really probably, something like 4 or 5 sets total. I just didn't feel like figuring out a way to split it up. So you'll see over time that I stopped sort of tracking, in terms of the number of sets, and I started just saying, okay, here's, one set of 200, when that's really, not just one set. You can also see here that, of course, there's plenty of zeros. There's plenty of those red numbers on days where, I just got bored. Like, something to note when you're doing training every single day is that you're going to get bored of things. That happens. And especially for me, I find arm training really boring. Especially, just basically, I'm doing bicep curls, and, it's bicep curls. Like, you don't have, yes, you can mix it up however you want. You can do hammer curls, you can do bicep curls, you can do curls with a, support. You can do like a preacher curl, you can do cheek curls, all sorts of stuff, but it gets boring. It's all just curls in the end, and you're just hitting the same, muscle over and over, and it takes a very slow, it's a very slow developing muscle. It takes a long time to develop. So, it gets boring. It really, really does. And so, a lot of this, these days where I didn't get any, volume in for the curls was literally just because I was bored. Like, it just didn't feel like doing curls that day. So that's one thing that I would say to take away from this is that when you're doing certain exercises every single day, you'll have to know that getting bored is going to be a part of the process. You want to try and keep some variety in there however you can. You want to try and mix up your workouts so you're not just doing the same weight, the same number of reps, the same exercise over and over again, because that gets really, really, really boring. So you can see over here, I added a little, column for arms measurement. I wasn't really too, careful about doing this every single day either. But probably a couple weeks after I started doing this, you see that I started off with a size of about 41 centimeters. And, by the end of, by the end of it, which is today, 42 centimeters, just a little bit over 42.25 centimeters. So, basically a month's time, putting about a centimeter on your biceps. Now, of course, I really didn't expect much of anything at all. I've been training for years and years and years. I've been training for a long time. I've been doing a lot of, workouts that have hit my arms quite a lot. And so, I was kind of expecting I'll see a little bit of, additional progress from training so frequently, but I wasn't expecting to see, really, a noticeable number like this. I was actually expecting it to be slower. And this isn't even really that big of a number, going from, 41 to 42 centimeters in, arm size is like, it's like 2% or something, right? Like, it's a very small change to see happen over, the course of basically a month or two. So, that's both good news and bad news, right? Like, you can make consistent progress over time. You can put in a lot of effort, and yeah, you are going to see slow progress over time. You just need to expect that it's not going to be super fast. It's not going to be, sort of your arms aren't going to blow up overnight. As always, it's about sort of, grinding long-term, focusing on just getting into the habit of doing the exercises regularly, and, things are going to develop, things are going to change. That's just how it is. So I want to talk a little bit about, sort of bicep training generally. So when you are training to build muscle mass, you're going to get most of your results out of stuff that is not isolation exercises. You're going to get most of your results from stuff that are large compound exercises like your bench press, your squat, your deadlift, your overhead press, and your row. That's really where you're going to build most of your muscle mass. And there's been plenty of research that actually shows that basically those compound movements are going to build roughly as much muscle mass as you do, when you add in those isolation exercises for things like your biceps as well. So if you're trying to train your arms, especially if you're a beginner, you're actually probably going to see better results just from bench pressing and doing rows than you're going to see from, necessarily doing a ton of curls. Now, that said, of course, you can always add in, a little bit of extra arm work. It will help squeeze out a little bit, of additional result. You're going to build a little bit more muscle mass, over time. But it's a very, it's not a great return on your investment in terms of time invested into it. It takes a lot of effort just to gain a little bit of, of mass in your biceps. And your biceps are a relatively small muscle group compared to, all the other larger muscles on your body. And so when you're training, it's generally way less important to focus on your arms. In terms of general health, in terms of strength, in terms of building muscle mass, in terms of looking good, you care a lot more about those compound exercises. You care a lot more about, just generally building a lot of muscle mass and a lot of strength all over your body. However, that said, if you're someone who really wants to grow your arms for whatever reason, maybe you are a bodybuilder, maybe you want to become a bodybuilder, maybe you just really like the idea of having larger arms, then yes, you can add in more arm training, and that's going to squeeze out, again, a little bit more. Now that said, of course, I don't think that those are realistic goals for most people. Most of people are not trying to compete in a bodybuilding competition. Most people really don't need to have super huge arms for any real reason. So I would sort of recommend for most people that you don't waste your time training arms. I really don't think that most people really need to. It's not something that you should be worrying about. It's not something that you should be focusing on. You can do it. Yes, but I'm not really recommending it. Again, it's a huge waste of time in terms of your return on investment when you could be focusing on things that could be giving you, much better results much quicker, and without having to, go through all the monotony and pointlessness of just training biceps constantly, which again, I hate. The other thing, of course, is that, you just need to learn to think in the long term. Arms develop slowly, they take a lot of time, they take a lot of effort, you have to train them frequently, and so it's going to be a long slog, right, to really add any serious amount of mass to your biceps, and you just have to expect that. They're going to be a slower developing muscle group, and you have to hit them hard, and, that's just how it is. There's no shortcuts, there's no secret recipe to blowing up your biceps. It just takes a lot of time, a lot of effort, and a lot of consistency. It also helps to have equipment at home. So, when you're saying something like, oh, you should train arms every day, or, you should train arms every time you go into the gym, okay, that's great. Maybe you go to the gym 3-4 times a week, maybe 5 times a week, and you're training arms every single time, at the end of your workout or whatever, and that's great. But I will say that it is so much easier to train arms every single day if you can do it from the comfort and safety of your own home. So, something like, just a very light pair of dumbbells, quick change dumbbells, something like that is going to go a really long way in terms of training your arms, because you can keep that at home, you can keep that next to your computer, you can do whatever. I am working from home right now, of course, so every time I'm doing something like a long phone meeting, maybe I don't need to be talking for a while, I can, pick up the dumbbells and I can do a few, quick reps, and, that way I can get in some of my work for the day. Or, maybe I'm just, sitting at my computer waiting on something to load. I know it's going to take a really long time to load some program or whatever. I can just, again, do a few reps while I'm waiting. It's way easier to do them when you have the dumbbells right there in your own home. There's no limitation, there's no friction in terms of making it easy to get those exercises in. So I will say that I think that it is a huge help if you do want to take an approach like this, where you are training your arms very frequently, to just get a pair of light home dumbbells to, train your arms at home. In a pinch, you don't even have to use dumbbells, right? You could even use basically anything that's decently heavy around your home. You don't need to have super heavy weights to be able to train your arms. You just need something like 10 to 20 pounds per arm, and, just the desire to keep doing reps. High reps are going to be good, lots of sets are going to be good, and, training more frequently, maybe even every single day, is also going to be good. So that's really it for, the topic for this week. I hope you liked this video. I hope that this video has maybe helped you out in terms of your own fitness journey. As always, if you like what you see, don't forget to hit that like button, since it helps out with the YouTube algorithm. And of course, comment, subscribe, tell me what you want to see in future videos, and I will talk to you all next time.